Good evening. Well, already off to a poor start. Good morning, fight fans. This is the Radulich and Broadcasting Network alternative commentary for UFC Fight Night, Andrade versus Zhang, from Shenzhen Universiade Sports Center Arena in Shenzhen, China. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me, sharing himself. Normally, he's doing written coverage for these UFC events. He's going to continue to do that, while also hanging out with me, doing alternative commentary for this event. Ladies and gentlemen, from 41mania.com. He never sleeps. He's a night owl, a lone wolf. He's Robert Winfree. How you doing, sir?
I mean, look, I'll cop to the night owl thing. If you listen to my mother, I've been that way since I was in utero.
So let's talk about this event so far that you've been covering since O'Dark. When I last left you, we were discussing the cinematic classic Zombie Tidal Wave. Did you?
Yeah, boy, if that didn't make you just want to stab yourself in the eye with an ice pick.
It's going to be like this for the next few hours. So did you actually go to sleep, or have you been up the whole time?
I slept an additional handful of hours during the day, from 3 or so to about 5-ish.
So you've been up. So you've been up since I last saw you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then this ought to be fun.
I am mostly appropriately caffeinated. And
mostly
using that as kind of my ability to kind of get through this card.
Well, if you start calling dragons and pink elephants in the ring, I'll let you know, and we'll adjust. All right. So this is a title fight between women's strawweight champion Jéssica Andrade versus challenger Weili Zhang?
Weili Zhang.
Weili Zhang. That too. Now, geography determined this particular main event because this is their debut in China. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the challenger here and how she got the job tonight?
Well, while Zhang did in fact get this largely based on being the best Chinese fighter best positioned to contend for a title, she's also a very legitimate prospect for the division. She's on a 19-fight winning streak. She's 19-1 overall. She has 3 wins in the UFC. Unfortunately, 2 of those were just kind of meh, but one of them was against Danielle Taylor, who does nothing but circle away and occasionally throw a punch. And the other was Tisha Torres, who does a lot of backing up and spin kicking, and it didn't really come together as far as that goes for very memorable performances. Sandwiched between those fights, she tore Jéssica Aguilar to pieces with elbows and then eventually submitted her with an armbar, which is a non-trivial accomplishment considering how good of a grappler considering how good of a grappler Jéssica Aguilar is. Too many Jessicas with A starting last names. Okay, there's only so much I can keep track of. So again, she's a very decent prospect. She has a really good kicking game. She relies very heavily on the old step up, inside leg kick. If you're standing, in opposite stance. If you're standing in the same stance, so we're both orthodox. She has a good side kick game, decent punches, good physical strength, especially if you get into the clinch. Really good elbow work, both in the clinch and on the ground. So she's a very legitimate fighter. This just at this particular juncture, in my estimation, is a big ask. I mean, Jéssica Andrade is a big ask for anyone in the division. She's lost to a grand total of 1 woman during her entire tenure at strawweight, and that's Joanna Jędrzejczyk, which remains just a terrible stylistic matchup for her.
Has she ever actually gotten a win over Joanna Champion?
No. They only fought the one time. It was about as lopsided a fight as you're going to see, but you really have to know what you're watching to kind of understand just how lopsided it was. Yeah. She rebounded from that. She scored a win. She scored 2 big wins over Claudia Gadelha and maybe Tisha Torres during that same stretch, I think. Gonna double check that. Yeah, and then she knocked out Karolina Kowalkiewicz with a punch, and in her title opportunity, knocked out Rose Namajunas by slamming her onto her head.
And Rose Namajunas is how we got the title off of Joanna Champion, if I recall.
Yes, we're at the moment we're in a little bit of a rock paper scissors stylistically with those 3 in particular. I think Andrade just matches up very, very well with Rose Namajunas, who matches up very, very well with Joanna, who matches up very, very well with Jéssica Andrade. So it's a little bit of how that's going to... I mean, Rose Namajunas has taken some time away from the sport at the moment, so if Joanna gets by Michelle Watterson, and I expect her to, a little bit later this year...
They have to match up Joanna Champion then with Andrade.
That would be the most logical thing to do next, yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and look at the rest of the main card here. Let's play the game Mark Massacres People's Names. Elijah Zaleski dos Santos versus Li Zhengliang at welterweight. All right, I got through that one, right? We got a flyweight bout between Kai Kara-France versus Mark De La Rosa. Keenan Song at welterweight versus... No?
Kanan
Song versus Derek Krantz at welterweight. And we're going to kick things off with a catchweight fight at 129. I'm guessing somebody here didn't make weight.
That would be Wu Yanan, who missed weight badly.
Wu Yanan versus Mizuki Inoue. Tell us a little bit about the Wu Yanan versus Mizuki Inoue fight. What can we expect here between these 2 gals?
It's hard to say. Wu Yanan only has 12 fights to her name. She's 1-1 in the UFC. She got pretty comprehensively worked in her debut, just didn't have a whole lot of answers. Forgive me, I forget who she fought in her debut. Then in her second fight, she fought Lauren... Oh, crap. Lauren Mueller. Which is weird because there's like 2 Lauren Muellers.
Jesus Christ.
There are. There's 2 of them. One of them's pretty good. The other one, not so much. The one who's not so much trains with Dan Henderson. Big surprise. And she was able to armbar in the first round. So again, there's a little bit of an unknown as far as that goes. Mizuki Inoue's had a fairly decent career. Fought a lot in both Invicta and the deep female promotion, Deep Jewels, where she was the champion for a while, I believe. Mizuki's a fairly well-rounded fighter, known a bit more for her striking. So keep an eye out for that. The more this stays on the feet, the more I tend to favor Mizuki. Whereas Wu Yanan is, again, she's all right, but I'm not sure she's a genuine UFC caliber fighter. Her only UFC win is over someone who I think is like 1-3 in the promotion. So it's a little bit of a stretch as far as that goes, but that's kind of been the descriptor of this entire card.
Now, Robert's been covering the entire card from soup to nuts here. The prelim card has just wrapped up as we move into our headliner card, our main card. It went down like this. Women's bantamweight, Caroline Rosa Quevedo versus defeated Lara Fritzen Presapio by split decision. That sounds like it was an absolute dreck. How'd it look?
It would have been a perfectly serviceable fight on a Shudo Brazil card. It was just kind of there for this one. For the record, the 30-27 for Hossa was no. Just okay. No. 29-28 for either woman is perfectly acceptable. All right, we're about to have our fight starts. We'll go over the rest of the card between the next couple of fights.
Sounds like a plan, Stan. Okay, so we're back with Wu Yanan versus Mizuki Inoue. How do you see this one playing out?
I'm leaning towards Inoue. Jeez, Wu Yanan is 5 inches taller. Only has half an inch of reach advantage, though. Again, the big story here is, again, Yanan missing weight by somewhere between 4 and 5 pounds, depending on how technical you want to get with the pound allowance.
Do you know what happened with her camp, or?
Not a clue.
Okay.
Just missed weight. And she weighed 129 for the record for a flyweight bout, which nominally takes place at 125. In a non-title bout, they'll give you a pound allowance. So again, it is a little bit unclear whether or not she missed weight by 3 pounds or 4 pounds.
Mm-hmm. And has anything come out as to why, or she just...
Not that I'm aware of. Just missed weight. We lost one of the main card fights earlier yesterday, I think. Technically yesterday. Movsar Evloev was supposed to fight a late notice replacement guy, something Liu. Forgive me, I'm not looking at the name, and it's a rather lengthy Chinese name. And just Liu suffered a cut after the weigh-in, actually. Weighed in successfully, just doing some light sparring, got cut, was medically unfit to participate.
What happens? All right, here we go. Both fighters take the center of the octagon. A lot of high energy from these two. A lot of bouncing around. A lot of, not necessarily feinting, but kind of shifting with the hands, looking for an opportunity. And somebody finally threw something. Didn't hit anything though. That was Wu Yinan with a leg kick, or at least an attempt at one. Mizuki steps forward, throws a 1-2. Yinan fires back with a left side kick.
Yeah, expect a lot of the lead leg side kick throughout the rest of this event. It's a prominent feature of a lot of Chinese fighters. And in fairness, it's not a bad technique to adapt, but you're going to see a lot of it.
Mizuki, I think, attempting a takedown. Yinan shrugged her off. Then Yinan followed up with a leg kick.
You can see some of the height disparity here in this fight. In all honesty, Inoue might not be all that uncomfortable if she were to fight at 115. Just looking at her body type.
Mm-hmm. Or the other way around is if this woman has a hard time, with her height and weight, making 125, she might want to go up to bantamweight.
Also a definite possibility. Again, this is the first time I believe that Wu Yinan has missed weight. Mm-hmm. So I tend to subscribe to the theory that with the randomness of the universe, everybody gets 1.
Sure.
2, and you got a problem. 3, and what the F, man.
So,
4, and you earn the title of fat.
So Mizuki steps forward, starts laying in strikes. Yinan sort of shrugging them off, but Yinan is playing a very defensive game right now. She's sort of circling away, occasionally throwing a leg kick. She's not being particularly aggressive. Mizuki is the one who keeps stepping forward and trying to engage. Yinan fired off a series of leg kicks there. She does not want to get hit by Mizuki. Every time Mizuki steps forward with punches, Yinan circles away and kind of pushes her off, which is interesting to me because she doesn't use those opportunities to maybe look for a counter. We finally see some counter striking back from Yinan, but it's taken a bit.
Only half a round.
You think she's just feeling out Mizuki, saying what kind of power she has? Well, what maybe can she look for in a later round?
There's always a little bit of trying to get the timing of your opponent and whatnot, but some of it's also, again, you're unlikely to see the highest level of what mixed martial arts has to offer from these two.
This event brought to you by Hobbs and Shaw, which I guess just came out in China. If I were to guess,
barely crossed 600 million worldwide at the box office, which we talked about a little bit on Damn You Hollywood's review of Ready or Not with myself and Alexis Hana.
So yeah, if it's going to crack that $1 billion mark, if it's going to make its goal, it's going to do so with foreign box office receipts. I'm not sure what I just saw there. She did this little hop and threw a right, and it just looked very awkward. Yinan did. Okay,
again, there's a lot of that in these fights.
So Mizuki is trying to get something with a tie clinch. She lands a right and then disengages. Yeah, Yinan has shown in this first round she does not really want to go get into a striking battle, give and take with this woman. Is Mizuki known for knocking people out?
Not so much knocking them out as just that's where she does her best work, and Yanan does not want to engage in a prolonged striking exchange with her. It's not where she's at her best, and it's where, in a way, is at her best.
All right, so Mizuki again goes into a tie clinch, and this time Yanan fought her way out of it.
Yanan is trying very hard to maintain a strict kicking distance. She doesn't want to be in boxing range here. It's very obvious that that's the case. So anytime they get close, she's working to she either needs to get all the way into a full-on clinch, not the half-collar tie that we see here a lot, or get all the way out. And Mizuki's the one having more success thus far, kind of forcing the fight to be at the range she wants it.
Yeah, she's as they say, and I know you hate this phrase, but she's been pushing the pace. She's been engaging. She's been the aggressor, and it's been working for her. Yanan tried to come on right there at the end of the round, but Mizuki evaded, and the round ended. So I'm going to have to go ahead and say 10-9 for Mizuki on that one.
And for the record, the reason I hate pushing the pace as this catch-all is because people use it as like a euphemism for, but they were going forward, and that's what I like to watch, even if they miss everything. Well, it is a bit of a criteria in scoring, and if all other things being equal, sure. It's just very rarely that all other things are equal.
Yeah, and clearly she was landing. She was aggressive. She was pushing. She was landing. If your criteria for who won the round is who would you have rather have been, I would have rather have been Mizuki in that round.
Which I'm not sure is in fact part of the scoring criteria, but given how archaic it is in some places, and for the record, we are under the new rules this evening, but I'm not entirely sure which definition of a grounded opponent we're using, because the American Boxing Commissions did change it a little bit about a month ago, I think. And certain commissions have adopted that new definition. Other commissions are using the definition from the newer rule set. And any place that uses the old rule set uses the old definition. Welcome to my life.
Clear as mud, Chief. Clear as mud as we begin our second round.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It really is.
All right.
Hey, government bureaucracy. Boy, what could go wrong?
All right, we begin the round much as we began the first round here. They take the center, both of them looking for some opportunities. Yanan started with a leg kick. She just went after Mizuki, throwing a series of strikes, none of which hit. Now she's being much more aggressive this round.
Well, she needs to be, but she's also dealing with a fighter who actually understands a bit of head movement, which is a foreign concept to a shocking number of female fighters.
Well, speaking of the head, right now she has Mizuki up against the cage. She's controlling the head with her left arm, and she's using knee strikes. We're looking. I think Yanan is looking for a takedown and working towards a submission here.
She's using the front headlock for control more than anything else. If she sells out for this guillotine, I would be shocked because it's...
Yeah, well, no, that's not going to happen. Couldn't get her down. Eventually, Mizuki turned it around with Yanan against the cage, and Yanan just escaped, and we're back to his striking again.
Well, if you look at that particular sequence, the power of the underhook is really on display there for Mizuki. She's the one who fights for the underhook. She's the one that gets them and is able to control the body, and then Yanan has to fight free in a disadvantageous position.
How is Yunan's submission abilities, her grappling? Where is she with that?
And again, it's kind of an iffy thing to really get a handle on because she got out-grappled pretty comprehensively in her debut, but was able to snatch an armbar from her back in her second fight. So it's more how she is relative to her opposition, I think, than anything that I could say about her in a vacuum.
Does she have any decent wrestling? Because I haven't seen much in the way of takedown attempts from her. It's been mostly kicking.
She's not much of a takedown artist from everything I've seen. So if she starts really losing the striking battle more comprehensively, we might see something. But you see the dirty boxing from Inoue here as well. And again, this is something that Yanan should be trying to avoid, because that like half collar tie position, Mizuki does some pretty good work from there, and she's kind of busted up the left eye of Yanan with a lot of that constant just pressure and work.
All right, so what we missed there while we were discussing, Mizuki continued to give chase. Yanan tried to counter-strike. Mizuki evaded most of those strikes and is continuing to abuse Yanan. Yanan's having a hard time finding a target.
Again, Mizuki has a fairly good defensive understanding, including good head movement. A lot of women in MMA right now just don't. I mean, the fight from earlier in the evening, the one we referenced that kicked everything off, neither woman did anything to block a punch other than just eat it.
Oh, nice counter left from Mizuki there.
Yeah, you can see Yanan fading a little bit here as well. She's not happy with the pressure. She's not happy backing up. She's starting to breathe out of her mouth a little bit.
She's not quite sure what to do with this woman. Mizuki goes to the body. Oh, Yanan did not like that at all. Yeah, she's starting to drop her hands. This is not going well for Yanan. And I think Mizuki smells blood in the water. Mizuki pushes Yanan up against the cage, looking to do some infighting.
Yeah, again, what you see here is a lot of the benefits of a woman who's had experience in the striking arts. And there's a real difference when you look at a lot of female MMA fighters between the ones who come up striking and being okay with that and knowing proper defense, and the one who come from more grappling-based arts.
So they were fighting for position against the cage, and Yanan seems to like the trip from the clinch. And in both times she's tried it, Mizuki went to one knee but immediately recovered.
Yeah, it's not a hard trip to kind of get the first half done if your opponent's not expecting it. If they are, it's a really hard thing to actually finish.
Okay. And that was the end of our second round. Again, I'm going to go 10-9 Mizuki.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mizuki's pressure, her pace, her effective striking, her effective defense. I don't think Yanan's landed more than about 5 or 6 clean punches or kicks all fight.
Yeah. She's missed a lot. She's thrown a fair amount, but one of the things I've seen with Mizuki in these past 2 rounds is her ability to evade and continue to move. Her striking defense relative to this match has been pretty good.
Yeah, she's doing a lot of evading. She's doing a lot of slipping and countering, whereas Yanan seems to be in either punch or slip mode. And in fairness to Yanan, getting those two to actually blend together is a fairly difficult thing that takes a lot of practice. That doesn't stop her from not actually having that asset at her disposal here, and it is definitely biting her, as Inoue does.
All right, we are back. This is our third and final round between Wu Yanan and Mizuki Inoue. Here we go.
Wu Yanan needs something spectacular here, and I'm not even sure what avenue she has to really attack for it. I imagine she'll force a clinch, and we might see the terrible headlock takeover attempt.
I don't know what she needs to do to force this to force an opening here, but she needs to try to finish this with a head kick.
Yeah, she has a pretty. Speaking of Wu Yanan's strengths, she does have a good kicking game. Unfortunately, her lack of distance control in this fight is really biting her. She's never in a position to really throw it with any degree of hoping it'll actually land. Mizuki's very good about just getting close enough to the point where a head kick is just not really a viable weapon to even attempt.
I was thinking maybe if she can bait Mizuki into something, countering with any kind of spinning back kick.
Yeah, she really does have to hope that Mizuki gets away from what's been working more than anything else, because Yanan has shown no ability to really change things up as far as that goes.
Who's the
And
Brazilian who had one shining moment in the UFC where he won the fight with a spinning back kick?
you're going to have to be way more specific.
Oh,
that
okay.
has happened more than once.
There's one in particular I'm thinking of. But so Yunnan went for a takedown there, and Mizuki just fought her off. Mizuki's hair is now loose from the way she had it. I'm hoping that doesn't distract her or get in her eye or anything, prevent her from defending herself.
It happens a surprisingly high number of times. I mean, she's also got them all in braids. I don't think it'll be much of an issue. If it does become an issue, this is categorized more as an equipment failure. They'll pause the action, they'll put a tie back into her hair, and we'll be back to fighting.
We need a scrunchie. We need a scrunchie.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what would happen.
All right, they tie up here in the center. I think at this point, Yunnan just seems to be trying to look for anything to stop this woman from hitting her, which isn't going very well. As we see Mizuki push her to the cage, she's got underhooks, and she's using her elbows.
Yeah, the way to get someone there's a couple of ways to get someone like Mizuki off of you in this case. One of them is just to hit them really hard. But Inoue's defense is preventing a lot of that. The other, if you can't reliably punch, stick something in the way of their head when they're trying to close distance. An elbow, a knee. If you're feeling like it, duck your head and use the top of your head. Just get something in there to disrupt that forward pressure. But Inoue's not diving through distance enough to really make that all that viable.
They just put up an advertisement for the event here in Tampa, which is Joanna Champion versus Michelle Waterson. I think I'm going to sit that one out.
Why?
Because UFC fights are expensive.
That is true.
Let's see. Mizuki still pursuing Inoue. Mizuki still pursuing Yunnan.
Yeah, you can see Yunnan, to her credit, she is trying a few things because of the way Mizuki keeps ducking. She's trying to go to the uppercut, but at this point her arms are fatigued and she just doesn't have the quickness of hand to really get there before Inoue is able to get a read on it and then readjust herself to avoid it.
Well, the other thing I'm noticing is Yunnan isn't circling like she was. She's kind of just backing up. She's backing.
Yeah, her footwork has gone away. Ooh, nice left-right from Mizuki.
Yunnan kicks to the body a few times. Those all hit. Nothing with a degree of serious power, but she's trying to lay in some kicks there. But Mizuki has been on the warpath here. She just keeps pursuing, and Yunnan keeps trying to back away, trying to keep her at a distance, which has not worked for her this entire fight.
Yeah, Yunnan has been a little bit outgunned, a little bit definitely out-techniqued, and does not seem to have a plan B that she can reliably go to.
Yeah, if you're trying to fill up this card with Chinese fighters for the crowd, this is not the way you want to kick off this card.
The Chinese have had a very successful night to this point so far, so one or two setbacks are kind of to be expected.
And that's the end of round 3. Not a whole lot more we can say here. I'm going to go 30-27 for Mizuki Inoue.
I agree with that.
We have our decision here. 29-28, 29-28, and 29-28. Your winner by split decision. For some completely odd reason, Mizuki Inoue. Robert, what the hell, man?
Look.
What kind of Chinese shenanigans we got going on here? How does any judge in the sport of MMA, even in a hometown, first appearance situation in China thing, how do you give any of those rounds, any of them, to Inoue, let alone 2?
I have no idea how you give Wu Yinan any of those rounds, much less 2 of them. That baffles me.
Which 2?
I couldn't give her 1. Like, I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe you could argue the first, I suppose. That's a big maybe, though.
Yeah, I'm struggling here.
Yeah, look, there's been some weirdness on the scores tonight. There's not been any bad decisions, but there have been some. Well, okay, look, the first fight of the night started with a split decision, and that included a 30-27 that I thought was utterly undeserved. They gave, in the next fight up, when Antalong Hele defeated Dana Batgarel via unanimous decision, they all gave him a 10-8 first round, which I did not agree with at all.
But at least they gave it to the right fighter.
I actually scored that for Batgarel, but...
Okay.
Let me be clear. I don't have an issue with that one going to Hele. But even with the knockdown in the first, I don't think he did enough to earn an actual 10-8. He got lit up for the majority of that first round and then scored a knockdown. So enough to win the round, not enough for a 10-8. There was not a couple of 10-8s given to Damir Ismagulov, despite him just kind of putting a beating on Thiago Moises. And then somebody in the bout between Su Motaraji and Andrei Sukumtat gave Motaraji 2 10-8s. He deserved 1 10-8, not 2. So there's been it's been kind of one of those nights already a little bit. So
have you, without getting into a series of 120-0 for Canelo jokes, which certainly seems to be the theme of tonight's decisions, have you recognized a pattern that might be informing the judges to score a certain way that maybe is inconsistent with the typical scoring process?
They seem to be a bit more liberal with the 10-8s, and I'm in favor of more 10-8s generally, but I think there should at least be an argument in place for a 10-8, and at least in a couple of these cases, not so much.
So the person who won with the spinning back kick that I was referring to before was Edson Barboza.
Oh, now he's had several. Barboza's been a pretty solid guy, actually. I mean, we can kind of see his ceiling, but he's not just a flash in the pan.
No, and I wasn't suggesting that he was. I was more alluding to the fact that he wins this fight with a spinning back kick, and then it was like, you're in all the main events now. And then he peters out, and it's like, as you said, there's a ceiling for him at a certain point, and past that, he was having some difficulties. We are ready to get underway with our next bout, a welterweight fight between Kenan Song and Derek Krantz. What can we expect from these two fellas?
Song Kenan is he's got some fast hands. He's got power. He's 2-1 in the UFC. Scored a quick knockout, slightly longer knockout in the second fight, and then just was outclassed by Alex Morono in his last fight. Well, Krantz kind of got into the UFC on short notice, and then just went Donkey Kong on Vicente Luque before gassing and getting smashed because Luque's good.
So this is not a walkthrough for Song Kenan, but meant to be an exhibition for him to showcase his talent, it sounds like.
It's favorable matchmaking.
For a Song?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, this is not a gimme, but Derek Krantz is... there's an open question at the moment about whether or not he's genuinely a UFC caliber fighter.
Where did he come from?
Oh, again, he stepped in on short notice to fight a very tough guy in Vicente Luque. And just... he's never been in the UFC. He's been more of a regional guy, so...
It sounds like they tap him for cards just like this. They need a body. Somebody needs an opponent, and they don't want to sacrifice anybody really good. So they call upon.
Yeah, that's not inaccurate based on at the moment.
All right. So far, We see the fighters taking the center of the octagon, just feeling each other out, throwing a kick here and a punch there, not really hitting much of anything.
There's going to be a feeling out process. Kanon's money punch is kind of his pullback right, which is what he's used on some of the, again, his big wins so far. He's been getting his opponent to overcommit. Again, the old fade back, come back with a counter, power hand punch, classic technique, works wonders to this day for a very specific reason. Survived the test of time as a general technique. So kind of be on the lookout for that. Again, he has fast hands. And at distance, it's more just kind of kicking and poking because he'd really rather you get close enough for him to punch you, but he wants to pick at you until you really commit to him.
Seeing an exchange of leg kicks between these two fighters. Zhang throws a high one. Krantz just backs out of the way. Krantz doing a lot of circling, looking for a way in, looking to keep away from those seemingly educated feet, but also looking for a way inside. I guess he knows Kanon is a pretty strong puncher, and he doesn't want to get hit with one of those.
Yeah, he doesn't want to get caught with anything coming in. He's also probably going to wind up trying to looking at taking this to the ground, where Kanon is not at his best.
So when you were doing these commentaries and you have a situation where we both get quiet, it's because there's not a whole lot to say, and I'm trying to follow the action. Finally, these two engage, and we see them now grappling up against the fence. It looks like Krantz was trying to get something going with a takedown. Kanon blocked it, turned it around, and then disengaged. Now Krantz is headhunting. He's looking for an opportunity with his striking. It looks like he's using his striking to set up possibly a takedown, figuring if he just comes in swinging, then that gets him close. So far, it has not been tremendously effective.
No, he's got to find a much more reliable way of getting into close proximity, and he's got to do something to get. You can see him trying a little bit here with his punches, but he either doesn't have the pop on them or just doesn't have a feel for the timing to get Kanon to really respect his power and stop and change up the game plan.
There was a couple of good kicks there by Kanon.
Yeah, he's a decent. Again, at distance, he's a pretty good kicker, and it's less. I hate to say it's less trying to finish you because he'll take it if he can get it, but it's more trying to really goad you into just doing something stupid. It's very, much as I hate to make the comparison, because there's a lot of dissimilarities as well, but that's kind of what Conor McGregor does very well. He pokes at you and he pokes at you and he pokes at you until you decide I'm sick of being poked, you overcommit, and then he counters you and suddenly you're in trouble.
Yeah. Krantz fired off a 1-2, and now Kanon is trying to circle away. Krantz has been pushing it. He's definitely been engaging a little bit more than Kanon has this round.
Well, Krantz, while he is wary of the power, also is not afraid of it, and there's a significant difference. He's just more annoyed by the distance management and kicking game than I think he is afraid of getting punched in the face.
So we saw a flying knee there from Kanon. He followed it up with a head kick. Krantz managed to avoid that. Now Kanon's trying to swing hard, swing fast, and Krantz is doing a pretty good job of staying out of the target range. He also looks dead tired. I saw him walking back there, and he was taking some deep breaths.
There's a lot of just tighten up and throw arm punches from both of these guys.
So, interesting first round there. I'm leaning towards Krantz. What say you?
I'm actually leaning towards Kanon. I think he did the better work throughout the round.
You're probably right, given where we are and what we saw in the last fight.
Yeah. Canelo jokes aside.
Still don't understand how you came to what blind mice. Does Does she have like a uncle who's one of the judges? What happened there?
I couldn't tell you. But again, a decent enough first round, and both men have some avenues of success. Again, Krantz seemed to be okay in the clinch, and it's not like he wasn't landing punches. He just wasn't able to find anything consistently, whereas Kenan was scoring a bit more, again, just throughout the totality of the round with his kicking game. Did a good job staying off of the fence, and the one time they did really clinch up, Kenan kind of got the better of it positionally.
All right, we open up with some shared kicking between these two fighters. Again, Krantz is sort of taking the center of the octagon. Kenan circling the way, looking for an opportunity to use those educated feet. Misses with a spin kick.
He's a bit over-reliant on that technique, and the real value in the spinning back kick is when your opponent doesn't see it coming. If they think it's coming, it's relatively easy to counter.
Okay. Kenan throws a right. Krantz ducks underneath it. He's going for a double, and he gets it. Picks him up and slammed him down. Now, Kenan is trying to control with the headlock. Krantz is using that opportunity.
That's not a good decision.
Krantz is trying to use that opportunity now to pass guard. He's still got his head controlled, but all things being equal, he does have half a side mount there, and he finally gets his head loose. Now he's got the full side mount.
Holding. Okay, this is a really dumb thing that Kenan's doing. If you hold the head of the guillotine position like this while your opponent's in side control, you're vulnerable to a counter choke called the Von Flu. And literally to avoid it, all you have to do is let go of their head. And again, which we see him do here, but that he left himself in an unhappy and potentially dangerous position for way too long for no good reason. He was not close to getting his hips back in play and transitioning that into some kind of guard maneuver.
So Krantz is working for full mount. He's currently in half guard. And he almost had it there, but Kenan has been using his hips and knees to avoid it. Now he pushes Krantz back to... Nope, he's still in half guard. And they're just kind of...
You can see Kenan's actually, in this instance, doing a pretty good job of shrimping with his hips to stop Krantz from really passing. He's got a pretty decent knee shield in there about half the time. He's fishing for a Kimura, looking to try and tie him up, and decent enough bottom work, but Krantz is also very clearly comfortable on top.
Kenan has now reversed it and taken Krantz's back. Krantz was able to effectively block him, and now he's got him back up against the cage again. And Krantz is working that wrestling. He's trying to keep this guy grounded, nullifying his kicking game. Yep, he got him back down again. And we are up against the fence in half guard, with Krantz on top. And Krantz working some punches from the bottom, trying to make something happen for him. Open up Kenan a little bit. Try to get a submission possibly. Kenan sits up, but still back against the fence. And
he's looking to wall walk, but he's really over-reliant on trying to tie up a double wrist lock to set up some kind of motion, which is really not the best idea. There's plenty of other better techniques than just kind of reaching over, fishing for that. He's actually, the way he's kind of trying to move, okay, there, now he gets his back on the cage, good. But as he wall walks, he's not properly fighting the hands, and he's not properly controlling Krantz's posture.
And Krantz has Kenan back down again.
There's going to be a lot of that, I think, for a minute or two here. Kanan did a decent... Oh, he really should not have jumped for the back like that. And he winds up on his back because of it. But, yeah, fairly notable mistake there. He should have just settled for a ride position instead of getting over-eager about trying to take a more dominant position.
So Krantz is still working from half guard. No, he tried to help him up, and Song shoot him away. It's interesting.
Look, you're in the middle of a fight. Like, don't offer the hand. You offer me the hand when we're fighting, I'm gonna either like grab it and try for an armbar. It's not something you should do. Okay, sorry, end of the round, but
Yeah, I was going to say, like, he offered him his hand to help him up after the round ended.
I still might not have done it.
I guess.
I mean, I appreciate the sportsmanship, but...
Well, sure. And that's really the point of all this.
That is not the point of all this.
Well, the point of... be a sportsman in a sport. That's all I'm saying. Don't...
How about you worry about being a winner?
That too. I feel like if you're good enough, you can do both.
Okay, if you're good enough. I don't think either of these guys are.
Aww.
Look, they're perfectly fine fighters, but again, I'm not sure the degree to which both of them are reliably UFC caliber fighters. The two wins that Song Kanan has are, I think, over guys who are no longer in the UFC.
Okay. So I think somebody in Song's corner said, you're probably losing the fight. Go get this guy. And he has come out roadhouse. He's throwing rights and lefts.
Best case scenario is he's a round apiece and needs the round. Worst case scenario, he's down 2 rounds and needs a finish.
Yeah. So he came out throwing lefts and rights, and he's beating up Krantz pretty good. Krantz shook it off, walked through it, and now he's back to where we left him in the previous round, on his back against the fence with Krantz on top of him, working for a submission. What's Krantz's grappling game like? I mean, obviously he's got some wrestling technique. You know, he's been pretty reliant since the beginning of the second round on takedowns. But does he? You know, how good is his submissions? Oh, he's busted up good. Song really went at him. And
Song landed plenty of those punches he was throwing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad, and it's clearly the avenue he's going to be pursuing here to get the win, assuming he wins. I mean, we're not talking about some otherworldly. He's losing his ability to control. He's tired.
Mm-hmm. He's taking a lot of punishment to the face. He just took half a flying knee to the nose or the chin, which forced him to then shoot in and try to take Song down. He's using his wrestling to stop.
He's
stop
buying time.
Yeah, he's kind of using it as a tie-up technique so that he doesn't keep getting hit in the face, because he has got like no striking defense at this point.
Yeah, Krantz's face is all kinds of busted up.
He's still got a hold of that leg, but Song looks like he's going to reverse position here. Nope. Krantz adjusts, takes the back, and then forces Song to his back. Now he's working from half guard again. This is not where Song wants to be. He wants to get this back on his feet and continuing pummeling this guy in the face. It's got to be frustrating when you know you're the dominant striker and you can see a guy fading and then he just, mauls you from the ground like this. Because it's not like Krantz has been particularly effective in trying to get a submission, but he can't get him off of him.
Yeah, it's a deeply frustrating thing for a lot of fighters.
And finally, Song is able to escape. He puts his hands on his knees, takes a deep breath. Not a good look for Song. And we're back into it again. He's getting some bouncing going, trying to get that adrenaline up. bit lackadaisical from Song. It's not like you're winning the round, pal.
He's probably winning the round. He's done the actual damage, and Krantz hasn't done a whole lot with his top control.
Could go either way.
Probably
though.
I technically have them around a piece at this point, so it's coming down to this round. And if Krantz can secure a lot of top control time, he might be able to ice it and get it. Or if he gets a lot of offense off, but they're both sucking a lot of wind.
Yep.
And in fairness to these two, this has been a relatively decent paced fight, so.
Yeah, they're both pretty tired. Song's got his hands down at his hips. He's breathing pretty heavy. They are hoping time passes very quickly. They're both done.
Yeah, they've both looked up at the clock and then had a brief look on their face like, oh, God, really?
Not exactly a stellar performance on either side. A lackadaisical front kick from Song. You know, a guy with any kind of wind and better ability would have murdered these two.
I am deeply aware of that fact.
Krantz eats a left from Song, and now they're just kind of standing there, trying to make a show of it, but being grossly ineffective.
Yeah, neither of these guys has the wind for this kind of fight.
There was more life in the zombies from Zombie Tidal Wave than these two have right now.
Ugh. I mean, you're not wrong, but ugh. Yep.
All right, we have our decision here. Kanan Song defeats Derek Krantz by unanimous decision, 29-28 times 3. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to piss and moan about this too much. You heard from Robert Winfree that one of those, you know, they were probably going into the third round around a piece. And then Kanan did the lion's share of the damage.
I'd even argue he did the lion's share of just the work in general. Yeah, again, just the whole thing about this, if you think that Krantz might have won, comes down to the first round, because Krantz clearly takes the second. Kanan pretty clearly takes the third. So it's how you scored the first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still like Krantz in that first round, but I can concede the point to where a judge would give it to Song. I just didn't think he was as busy as Krantz in that first round. But again, it's not enough for me to get my dander up and get pissy about it. All right, let's move on to our flyweight battle here. We got Kai Kara-France versus Mark De La Rosa. How do you see this one playing out? What do you like about this fight?
Well, it's flyweights. I like flyweights. Kai Kara-France doesn't really do boring fights. He's an action fighter. Mark De La Rosa is number 14 in the UFC in this division by virtue of being the 14th guy. I kid you not. I think the UFC only has 15 flyweights, and they only have those so they can actually fill out the rankings.
I feel like you could have dubbed this card Chinese Chinaman versus Pig Hostage.
For a few fights, maybe. Look, this is, I mean, again, my jokes about the state of the UFC's flyweight division aside, this is a pretty solid fight. De La Rosa is a scrambly ground fighter. Kara-France doesn't do boring fights. I mean, look, Kara-France is ranked number 10 right now, not by virtue of being a great fighter. He's not a bad fighter, but he's like, I think 2-0 in the UFC, but with the state of flyweight and the UFC just not being willing to man up and say we're cutting it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought after Henry Cejudo became the bantamweight champion, we were done with all this.
Yeah, that's what we all kind of thought, was that's going to be a great excuse for them to backdoor cut it, but now they're making noise about Henry Cejudo's first fight back once he's done healing up from his shoulder surgery will have to be defending the flyweight title against Joseph Benavidez, or he's just going to have to give up the belt. And I don't know. Look, the UFC spent like the last 10 to 12 months, cutting about half of the flyweight roster. And now for some reason they've kind of reversed. I mean, look, I can accept you want to tear down to rebuild kind of mentality, but they deliberately, like, this is the only division in the entire sport that I can say the UFC does not have, say, two of the best three flyweight fighters in the world.
Now you're referencing one, I'm imagining?
And Ryzen.
I wonder
because the UFC does not have either Kyoji Horiguchi or Demetrius Johnson.
Well, they got rid of Demetrius, and they got Funky Ben Askren in return. But
what they got was a star-making moment for Jorge Masvidal. Let's be clear about that.
What I'm wondering is if they figure maybe they can save money by doing one-fight contracts with some of these foreign fighters from elsewhere in the world, rather than keeping them on the roster and having to pay health insurance and all of that.
They don't. No, fighters aren't employees.
Okay. So I don't know. Other than they just don't care, and I guess they figure they'll deal with it when they need to. And I'm not really sure.
It's more that.
What the mentality is.
Look, if I knew, I could talk about it. I don't know. It makes no sense to me. Again, I love this division. It's one of my favorites to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's action, it's scramble, it's technical, and again, the UFC spent the last several months cutting talented flyweights off the back of one loss, and it does not make sense to me if you're trying to in kind of a rebuilding thing, because they're not signing anyone who's new that's really lighting anything on fire. They've had, I think, less than half as many flyweight fights year to date in 2019 as they did to the same point last year.
I'm actually surprised they don't have more Chinese flyweights on this card.
Who knows? Wow. Kara France has 4 inches of reach. That is not insignificant at this weight.
What is it? In the height, I think one of them was 5'6". De La Rosa was 5'6", and Cara France was 5'4". But Cara France has a reach advantage?
Yes.
Huh. So where did they get this guy from? Cara France?
He's from New Zealand, I believe.
Yes.
He was originally part of the 25th, 26th, I can't remember, season of The Ultimate Fighter. That one where they did, hey, if you're a champion from around the world, we'll bring you in, and the winner of the season gets to fight Demetrius.
Oh, okay.
Which was actually the best season as far as fight quality goes that show's produced in like 7 years. But no one watched it because the UFC doesn't know how to promote flyweights, and the American market for flyweights is small to begin with, you bunch of sizes jackasses.
That's me he's talking about, ladies and gentlemen. All right,
yes, it is.
Here we go. Cara France takes the center of the cage. He starts off coming after De La Rosa. De La Rosa circles away. De La Rosa finally starts to come forward, throws a left and right and a leg kick, none of which seem to hit.
Yeah, you're seeing a little bit of what Cara France does so well already. He's a very high pressure, fast paced style of fighter. I mean, he was successful briefly on that season of The Ultimate Fighter, knocked out his opponent to qualify for the show, and then just lost in the first round to, I believe, Alexandre Pantoja, who's still in the UFC. And the UFC didn't want to keep him around for reasons, so he fought a few times outside the UFC, continued beating people up, and then they signed him when they were back in Australia.
And so this is his second fight since he's been back?
Third.
Third.
He's won the other 2.
All right, De La Rosa is finding a way inside, scores a big hit there on Cara France. He shoots, forces him up against the fence. And now De La Rosa takes his back. He's looking for a takedown. Gets him to one knee. Cara France is trying to defend and block. And De La Rosa is in tight on him. He's currently sitting on that one knee that's still up, trying to force it down. He gives that up. Goes to his back again. I think he's going to try to muscle him down. Yep.
Yeah, he's going for some mat returns here, and again, a lot of muscle because of how Cara France is defending, but it's early enough in the fight. If you want to muscle it, go for it.
He just threw a pretty good knee to Cara France's face. Cara France was just was so busy defending the takedown, he didn't see the knee coming.
Which is a really good point of attack for De La Rosa as the fight goes on. Just a little bit of those in-between places.
Another knee from De La Rosa. Cara France not looking good so far. De La Rosa's been able to control the fight from this position. Cara France turns around, and now he gets a slam. Cara France starting to work some ground and pound. De La Rosa is trying to get back to his feet, which he does.
Yeah, again, thank heavens for flyweights, because if this were, heavyweights, they'd already be dying of oxygen deprivation.
I was going to say, the fight would be over by now.
No, it wouldn't. They'd still be fighting, but just bent over with their hands on their knees.
Stop. See, you're a sizist. You hate heavyweights.
I hate bad heavyweights, and I have plenty of actual evidence to support this.
Did you see the main event for the next bare knuckle event is Bigfoot Silva versus Gabriel Gonzaga? I can't wait for that. That's actually
I'm sure you can't.
That's actually here in Tampa. My wife's like, "Are you going to go?" And I'm like, "Probably not, but I will be watching that at home." Oh, De La Rosa scores a couple of big punches to Cara France to the face.
Yeah, De La Rosa is doing a really good job of kind of being the more just settled, mentally focused counter fighter, and is landing quite well because of it.
It's been a pretty back and forth affair so far. De La Rosa came forward there. He got countered by Cara France.
Yeah, both men are definitely having moments of success.
We're down to less than a minute here, 45 seconds on the clock. My daughter would like to say it's now 30 seconds. She was a little ahead of the game. She's come to join us here at the commentary desk.
Well, I'm sure that will, benefit the entire production.
De La Rosa went for a takedown. Cara defended. He ended up going face first in the dirt, and they're back both on their feet again. All right.
Again, pretty decent round. Again, I like flyweights.
Okay. If you're going to be out in the living room, go put underwear on. Thank you. All right. We are moving into round 2.
I'm actually going to lean towards De La Rosa in that first round.
Yeah. De La Rosa had a fair amount of takedowns, had some good knee strikes. Seemed to be the busier of the two fighters. I mean, I think it's by a hair's breadth, but I would agree with you. De La Rosa took that first.
Very competitive fight thus far, and De La Rosa is actually performing better than I expected. I was picking Cara France for this fight, so...
Okay, my daughter would like to ask me a question. What's your question, Lily? Speak loud.
I don't know what that move was they just did. I do not. It looked very...
Lily, when you're fighting, you want to shift your weight. You want to keep your feet moving, because if you just stay planted and static, you're going to get hit. So that bouncing that they're doing, that's proper fighting. And we see, and the round starts off with Cara France coming out strong. He's throwing a series of lefts there. De La Rosa backs away, circles. Now he's coming forward, throwing a series of rights and lefts. High kick from Cara France. Seemed to be something of a roundhouse. De La Rosa kind of ducked underneath it. Oh! Cara France finally scores a right, and down goes De La Rosa.
There we go.
Cara... We have some Cara France fans in the house right now. De La Rosa landed on his back, but he blocked any forward momentum from Cara France and got back to his feet again. Lost opportunity for Cara France. Kind of disappointing. A good hit, though.
The man has power, and fortunately he also knows how not to force things.
Cara France still coming forward here, walking. Oh, good shot to the legs there. Cara France kicked De La Rosa's legs out from under him, and he went down on his ass.
Hey, Daddy. I actually have a question. Are they in the wing? Are they in the wing with the ropes on?
Do you see ropes?
No, I feel like
Then you've answered your own question, haven't you?
Yeah, I feel like that's my imagination.
Okay. Commentary from our foreign desk here between Jonas and Lily Radulich discussing whether or not this is a ring or a cage. It's that expert commentary that you can expect here on the Radulich and Broadcasting International team.
Oh, yeah, I'm on TV.
Anyway,
Yeah, Cara France was really not happy with how that first round went, apparently, and he is on the warpath this round.
He just scored a pretty good head kick there. De La Rosa shook it off. De La Rosa showing a pretty good chin here. I mean, he's taken some really hard punches from Cara and hasn't wilted. He's still in the fight. He's lost this round, but he's still in the fight.
He lost the round so far. Plenty of time left for that to turn around.
So far.
Yeah, he's got a decent chin, and he has the Mystic extreme cupping therapy bruises on his back, so you know he has that kind of mojo going for him.
We'll be right back.
All right, we see Cara France start to, I like his use of the jab in this round.
Yeah, he's a fairly well-rounded fighter. He's got decent hands, and not just in terms of his power.
Side kick there from De La Rosa. De La Rosa scores with the left jab right to the nose.
Yeah, both guys have fairly decent jabs, which is not uncommon for the division.
But De La Rosa, even after taking as much punishment as he has this round, he's been keeping up with Cara France. I mean, I'm liking this fight. It's a good, back and forth affair. Leg kick from...
Again, like I said, despite losing the round pretty clearly to this point, he's not out of it.
Cara France scored with a good leg kick, and De La Rosa tried to return fire. Cara got out of there in a hurry.
Yeah, Cara France has landed several really solid leg kicks this round. He's been targeting the calf more than the thigh, which is a very debilitating kick if it gets going.
Yeah. De La Rosa trying to walk him down and get him against the cage. Cara France was able to circle out of it. What I was going to say before, Cara France actually done a very good job of cutting the cage off of De La Rosa. Like, he's not just letting him circle ad infinitum. He's been cutting him off pretty well. He's been forcing the action. I'm liking a lot, though. Cartwheel kick from Cara France. You show off, you.
And he's also got a little bit of a cut under his right eye. Again, flyweights, man. When you only weigh 130 pounds on less than 140 pounds on fight night, you can get away with stuff.
My son's getting into this fight.
Oh, good. Breeding the next generation of flyweight fans is something that we should be working on.
Okay, I'll work on that with them.
No, you won't.
You're right, I won't.
You'll feed them a diet of heavyweight schlock.
I'm gonna make my son watch the Bigfoot Gonzaga bare knuckle fight.
Oh.
Jonas, we love bare knuckle fighting, right?
Yeah.
Do not show him that fight. That border on the illegal.
We will be watching bare knuckle in this house, either live or in a replay.
Your son probably scored the Lobov Malignaggi fight for Lobov, didn't he?
I don't know if he knows what a Lobov Malignaggi fight is. All right, so that second round clearly went to Cara France. So what are we looking at? 1-1 here.
I'm 1-1.
Okay, keep it down over there.
Which I imagine is probably what the judges are as well. Yeah, good round for Cara France. De La Rosa came back on towards the end of it. Cara France is a bit of a first half of a round fighter more than a back half. So something to keep your eye on for the third round is how fast he comes out of the gate, looking to really put De La Rosa in a scoring hole as fast as he can.
I'll tell you what, Cara France looks a bit more winded than De La Rosa does. De La Rosa still looks pretty fresh. De La Rosa comes out swinging, backs Cara France into the fence. Cara France circles out, goes for a weak leg kick, doesn't hit anything. De La Rosa continues to walk forward, throwing very fast hands.
Yeah, Cara France definitely the more fatigued fighter at this particular point in time.
Tried there for an uppercut and then backed out of the pocket. Cara France did. Throws a leg kick and De La Rosa is trying to end this fight. He is not comfortable with these scorecards and wants to try to get a finish here. He is not coasting to victory.
I would look if I'm him, and I think again, best case scenario, you're a round apiece, and there's a real chance that you might have lost the first round. Get after it.
Yeah. Yes, Lily. How can I help you?
Well, you need to let us might be on more of your podcast.
Most Saturday mornings I don't even see my children. They are holed up in their rooms like squirrels in a tree. Now when I'm doing live coverage, here they are, my children. They want to be with me, parenting.
Because I want to be on TV, or
No.
at least recording.
You just don't want to clean your room, is what the problem here is.
That's not the reason. That's not the reason.
That's totally the reason.
I know. So my TV was actually, you actually first said none of the planes were even working. So that's why I'm right now.
Okay, my son says he's only out here because he can't get his TV to work for some odd reason. Anyway. So we're back in this. We've seen some... Okay, De La Rosa starting to lay on the damage here.
He's really starting to cook at this point.
Cara France keeps backing out of the pocket. He doesn't want to get into a roadhouse exchange of fists with De La Rosa.
No, that's not really his bag. He's a high-paced fighter more often than not, but he's not much of a brawler as far as that goes.
So Cara France just... So he backed De La Rosa all the way up against the fence. There were a series of rights and lefts. De La Rosa just covered up and said, "Bring it, buddy." I'm guessing he's trying to goad him into punching himself out, and so that'll leave him open to De La Rosa's strikes.
Seems like a possibility. Solid body kick there from Cara France.
My son's doing his best impression of Joe Rogan.
Better than some of the alternatives.
If we start to hear my son talk about the lack of cups in MMA, then we'll know.
Look, when he starts preaching the values of DMT, then you have a problem.
Yeah. All right, Cara France. And
that flurry from Cara France may have put him back in the driver's seat as far as scoring goes, because he did a number on Rosa.
Do you think so? Did Rosa block most of those punches? I don't think he really did any damage there.
He's torn up. He's bleeding.
I think he was bleeding before that, though.
Not as bad as he is now.
No one got kicked in the privates. They just stopped the fight if he had. You'll know if someone gets kicked in the privates. They will make a show of it.
Yeah, De La Rosa is actually fading a little bit here. Kara France is getting his kicking game going, and that's kind of chewing him up a bit.
De La Rosa stays with Kara as he tries to circle. Yeah, he's working those legs now. He's effectively laying in those leg kicks. Kara France.
I see the poster for Hobbs and Shaw in the ring.
Yes, we discussed that earlier, Lily. My daughter now picking up that they're advertising Hobbs and Shaw on the ring mat.
Hey, remember when the UFC said fighters couldn't have their own fight gear because they thought it didn't look professional? But now their whole mat looks like just the advertisement page of the New York Times.
I was going to say, I remember when people thought that the name of the promotion wasn't Strikeforce, but rather Rockstar. And right in the center there, it doesn't say UFC, it says Monster.
Yeah.
The UFC, we are not consistent.
You know, the antitrust lawsuit that's currently going on against the UFC has shown that the fighter share of revenue is less than 20%.
I'm not surprised. I mean, but I think this has been sort of the complaint with a lot of guys at the top of the UFC, where it's like, where they all say, like, I want to go into boxing because that's where the money is, because they barely make enough to cover their camps. All right, that's the end of the round here. This is a tough one to call. What do you think?
I'm gonna lean towards Kara France. Actually, I think he did enough as that last round closed down to steal it. But I'm not gonna complain about honestly any scorecard for either guy. Hang on, I will complain about 30-27 for De La Rosa just because he got dropped in the second and did not win that round.
And we're back on the air with the Radulich family.
Thanks, Lil. All right, so we have a winner
Hey, at least
here.
you had the timing right.
Yeah, it's something you have to pick up. As much broadcasting as we do from this house, I'm going to have 2 communications majors when they go to college, if they both go to college. Kai Kara France. We in this house believe not everyone needs to go to college. Some of us can just be plumbers, and that's perfectly fine. Kai Kara France defeated Mark De La Rosa by unanimous decision. 2 30-27s and 1 29-28. What do you think of those scores, Robert?
I'm okay with it. I was 29-28 for Kara France. I gave De La Rosa the first round, but I can see an argument for, I think you actually said you might have leaned towards Kara France, a very close round. And if a round, in order to maintain my sanity and save it for, fight scored for Canelo, when we get to a round that could reasonably go to either fighter, I can't be upset when it goes to either fighter.
Yeah, I'm at this point. I'm even struggling to remember what the round was where Kara France knocked De La Rosa on his ass.
Well, yeah, that was the second, and that's why I might have lost it if they went 30-27 for De La Rosa, but. Again, you could give Kara France all 3 rounds, and I wouldn't complain. I wouldn't lose my mind over it.
What was your final score?
29-28 for Kara France. I gave De La Rosa the first.
Okay. All right, we're moving into our co-main event here. Elijah Zaleski dos Santos versus Ling Jilang.
Wow. Okay, then.
You want to fix that for me?
Okay, Elijah Zaleski dos Santos, a perpetually underappreciated fighter at welterweight. He's on, I believe, a 7-fight winning streak right now and is barely in the top 15. For no other reason than because we must maintain the status quo of fighters like Robbie Lawler and Rafael dos Anjos maintaining a top position for reasons unclear to everyone with a functional brain. They ranked Nate Diaz at welterweight. Look, I don't know which local radio disc jockeys are the ones contributing to the UFC rankings, but you are terrible. Stop. Anyway, and he's a lot of... Anyway, Dos Santos is a fair bit of fun. He's a dynamic fighter, good on top, good on the ground, some wild kicks. His nickname is Capoeira because that's his first discipline. And he'll throw in a wheel kick here or there. Whereas Li Jingliang is actually one of the longer tenured Chinese fighters in the UFC.
Jingliang, that was your big problem with how I pronounced all that?
Well, considering how you pronounced it, yes.
Whatever.
Jingliang has been with the UFC since 2014. Has amassed a very respectable record over that particular period of time. He's, 8-3, I think, overall in the UFC? Yeah. And he's on a 2-fight winning streak. I mean, neither of them are great fighters, but he showed up and he beat them, and that is an important component of, fighting.
So for the remainder of this fight, I will be referring to them as Dos Santos versus Dingaling. My Dingaling, my Dingaling, I want you to play with my Dingaling.
Dad, just stop it.
Yeah, my daughter does not appreciate my moderately racist pronunciations of things.
If you want, I can throw my backpack at you.
I kind of want that.
So this whole fight seems to have been a commercial for next week's UFC pay-per-view in Abu Dhabi, UFC 242 Khabib versus Poirier.
Which, in fairness, is a very, very good card.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. And we'll be doing commentary for that as well.
Another one of these, where I try not to melt my brain.
How you doing with that? Are you feeling particularly melty?
Not for reasons related to this. and that's a really good fight, all things considered. I lean towards Khabib, but that shouldn't be a surprise. I lean towards Khabib against the entire lightweight division.
I feel like it was years ago Pat said the one to watch is Khabib Nurmagomedov, and
yes,
and he's lived up to it. I think the big thing that's held him back over the years has been injuries.
He lost a lot of time due to injuries, which sucks. But yeah, no, Pat's really good about predicting stuff like that. Look, Pat called Khabib, Pat called Stipe Miocic as a future champion. He and I both called Max Holloway. I was more correct in the timing of Max Holloway's ascension than he was, but I'll take a minor victory where I can get it. And yeah, look, when Pat says, hey, I think so-and-so has potential, I pay a lot of attention because he's got a really good track record. Yeah, it was like Khabib's second fight or something that Pat said, yeah, this guy's got a lot of potential. 2 fights later, I think he's going to wind up being champion someday. Lo and behold.
And here we are. All right, what can I do for you, young mess?
Oh, that Poirier Gaethje fight was so good.
Are we ever going to do another movie commentary? Probably.
Look, the first time someone gives us money on Patreon, which you can do over at patreon.com/Radulich, we will do a thing where if you just pledge even like $1, once a month we'll let you pick a movie, and you can even... Look, if you pledge $5... you get to pick who does the commentary track for it. If it's just one, you pick the movie, we'll sort out amongst ourselves who has the time and the...
Anything less than an R, you can almost expect my kids to be there.
So, be aware that's a thing you can do if you're interested in some of our commentary, if you want to throw some money our way to help support what we do and how we do it. Always appreciated.
Right now, on Patreon exclusives, there's our... show on D23. Myself, Ronnie, and Alexis talked about all the announcements. We talked even a little bit about the Sony Disney split regarding Spider-Man. So that is a Patreon exclusive. Only Patreon
patrons.
Thank you. Only Patreon patrons can hear that show. Nobody else. That is exclusive to people who throw some money our way. $1 gets you that show and all of the other content. We have our Godzilla commentary, Superman Doomsday, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I think Jesse has a Temple of Doom one up there. I think there's a Friday the 13th commentary. There's all kinds of movie commentaries that we've done over the years that have been shifted to Patreon. So if you didn't get a chance to hear them when they were available to everybody, now they are exclusive to you on Patreon for just $1. That's it. That's all we're asking for. And you get all of this content that you could possibly want to hear. Jesse actually just posted We discussed the She-Hulk quote-unquote controversy that developed on Twitter, where the the He-Man Woman Haters Club decided that they didn't like the She-Hulk idea because they assumed that it was just a gender-swapped Hulk and negated 30 years of this character being around.
Yeah, look, She-Hulk has been a property and a character longer than most of the people complaining about this have been alive.
Yeah. She's been an Avenger. She's been
Member of the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, she took the Thing's place when he was on Battle World.
She's done like a few different Avengers setups, so she's been like both an Avenger and a West Coast Avenger. She's a perfectly fine character, all on her own right. This is not anything to get up in arms about.
So we had a discussion about that while we were recording for another show. Jesse took that audio and posted it as its own separate show. So if you want to hear us talk about the vast history of She-Hulk and why she deserves to have her own Disney Plus show, and now I'm hearing rumors that they're fast-tracking and developing an A-Force movie featuring She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, and Valkyrie.
So is it all the girls in here?
Yes, all the girls.
Yay!
And my daughter's very excited.
I like
What a-
superheroes.
Finish that sentence, Robert.
Hang on.
You started it.
I did. What a giant waste of time.
No, clearly not. Look, they're looking to build their female audience. They're looking to attract young children to these things that might have otherwise stayed away. And so here you have my daughter is a perfect example of somebody who grew up all Disney princess all the time, who's now excited for an Avengers film.
Yeah, who's gonna lose? She's
Superheroes. What the what now?
She's gonna lose her mind the first time one of them gets hit really hard in the face.
Probably. But considering we were driving through a storm last night, and miles away there was lightning strikes, and she said, "Oh my God, we're going to get hit," and both me and my wife wanted to throw her out of the car. You know, had to explain to her how lightning and thunder work. All right. So again, we've got DeSantos.
There's an interesting kind of a sub-story here around this event that I do feel compelled to bring up briefly as we see Elijah Zaleski dos Santos. The Chinese Broadcast Authority, the primary regulator of media for them, which is a long, drawn-out title. You know what? I have it here, and I have some time, so give me just a second. I will look it up. The State Administration of Press, Publication, Radio, Film, and Television of the People's Republic of China.
Oof.
They're a bloated bureaucracy. Yay, socialism. Has actually banned the representation of visible tattoos or other hip-hop culture things from broadcast in China. And there's a lot of ink on MMA fighters. But this is actually a real problem for regional MMA, such to the point that if most regional promoters will not actually just sign or have fighters on their cards who have visible tattoos. It's too much of a problem to get around that. And no one's had anything even remotely approaching a cover-up for them on this event. So I am curious whether or not that's just selectively enforced, whether or not this is not actually being broadcast in China. Whether it's like live, but we have issues with broadcasting because all the tattoos. Or, I imagine just because, hey, corrupt government, it's just selectively enforced, and the UFC's willing to throw enough money at the problem to kind of like, hey, we'd really like our product to be aired in your country. You have 1 billion plus people as an audience that we'd really like to get paying for our stuff.
Do they have pay-per-view in China?
No.
Okay.
Oh, they don't even really they barely charge for tickets. Like there's an actual state set limit on how much you can charge for an event like this.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering, the reason why I asked about the pay-per-view is I'm wondering if maybe that's how they got around it. They were like, well, you can have an event with tattoos on it, but you're going to have to pay extra. Like what we'll do, for a broadcast rated R, that sort of thing, where if you want it, something like an HBO, you want it, you have to pay extra for it.
No, there is no price discrimination in the People's Republic of China, Mark. How dare you? This is a evil capitalist propaganda that you are spewing, and will not be tolerated in the glorious People's Republic of China.
Okay, well, now that I've been chastised for making an American
your lack of devotion to the party, sir.
my greedy American assumptions, Lily, what are you yammering on about?
When boys box in this round, what type of shorts are they wearing? Are they wearing shorts that are very tight, or are they wearing underwear?
Well, one of them is wearing tight, kind of spandexy shorts, and the other one's wearing loose, kind of boxing shorts. Well, boxing has a very specific waist. They have it's large waist. They kind of keep it usually up around their belly button because, the rule in boxing is no below the belt, so they keep the belt kind of higher than normal. MMA shorts are not boxing shorts, but if you're talking about like a quote unquote a boxer short, like you would wear for underwear, if you just use your eyes, jingling. How are we pronouncing that, by the way?
Jing Liang, you heathen.
Jing Liang is wearing looser shorts than the other fellow who's wearing very tight shorts. I don't know why this matters to you, but thanks for asking.
Hey, if I'm going to be on this podcast, I have to ask something.
You could
That is
ask
correct.
You could ask something relevant to the actual fight.
At least you asked something relevant to the stuff happening on screen. We'll call that progress.
True. She's not my son who asked, "Are there ropes in this?" and was looking at the screen when he asked me that. Anyway, here we go. Children, folks, they're adorable.
That is one word for them.
All right, we start up here, and Dos Santos starts off with a left kick. Jing Liang.
Thank you.
A lot of feeling out here. Like nobody has been super aggressive in the first round in this fight.
No, neither of these guys are going to be hyper aggressive until they think the other one's hurt. Then they'll go balls out.
Mm-hmm. To my daughter's point, he is wearing his shorts, Jing Liang, tighter than some of the other fighters have, where they tend to be a bit baggier.
Yeah, it's just whatever works for you. There's a lot of different styles. Some of them wear them longer, some of them shorter.
They're not spandex, they're not what.
No, he's not using the compression short kind of setup, but he is wearing them in a style that is tighter. Some guys roll them up a little bit. Some have a longer cut up the side. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of variance as far as that goes.
Some guys look like they're wearing basketball shorts. And
that actually happened at a UFC event. Look up Cody McKenzie and Chad Mendez. Dude still had the price tag stuck to his shorts. Cody McKenzie also famously donated a pint of blood once to make weight.
Cody McKenzie, that's Uncle Creepy, isn't it?
No, that's Ian McCall.
Ah, darn. All right, so I've only really been watching these since we've started doing these commentaries again, so some of these fighters I've just plumb forgotten about.
I do not blame you.
All right, so if you're wondering why we're talking about everything but the fight, because nothing is happening.
A pretty good body kick from Dos Santos there.
They're not karate kicking or kung fu punching. They're not doing anything fun.
You're right, Lily. They're not karate kicking or kung fu punching.
Okay, that's a takedown from Jing Liang. There's not going to come anything of it, but...
I'm too scared. I'm just...
What I'm looking at is Dos Santos threw a couple of body kicks there. Liang is trying to stay out of his striking distance, it looks like. Dos Santos threw a leg kick. Zhang finally came... Liang finally tried to come forward. Oof, tried to get that out of my mouth.
Look, again, Dos Santos is a really powerful kicker. You've seen him uncork a few left kicks to the body already that have Jing Liang rethinking life choices.
So on the televised graphic here, they have it as Dos Santos versus Lee. I think I'm going to spare myself the tongue-tying and just go with Lee.
The UFC is deeply inconsistent when it comes to how they want to respect or not respect the because again, most Chinese, Japanese names, the convention is to have your family name first, followed by your personal name. Whereas in the West, we reverse that. You are not Radulich Mark, you're Mark Radulich.
Right.
And Li Jingliang, I can't remember if Li is his family name or Li is his first name, because the UFC has gone back and forth on it.
Yeah, the first fight we saw, they had what was displayed was Mizuki instead of Inoue.
Mizuki only goes by Mizuki professionally. She's like Cher.
Awesome. When I put up a picture later, I might just put Mizuki next to Cher.
There's a few fighters who kind of want to do that, and for some reason Mizuki's one of them.
So Mizuki actually had some fire. Mizuki, listen to me. Lee finally had some fire there, and he backed up Dos Santos pretty good. Dos Santos seems to have recovered.
Yeah, Dos Santos has a pretty good chin. But he is vulnerable to punches, but he tends to wear them well. Another nice body kick there from Dos Santos.
Oh, he knocked down Dos Santos. Dos Santos landed squaw on his butt. But he recovered really nicely, ties up Lee, and drives him back into the fence, and follows with a knee strike.
Your daughter seems to have yet to grasp the concept that these guys are actually fighting with their health on the line, not something scripted.
She likes action fights. What can I tell you? She says me as a father.
I mean, I don't blame you. I like action fights as well, but this is not a boring fight.
No, look, forgive her her transgressions. She's 8 and doesn't know the finer points of MMA.
No.
You're an unrelenting sod.
I have exacting standards. I am aware of this.
All right, so I might have to go with Lee on that first round.
With the knockdown, yeah. Prior to the knockdown, I was leaning towards Dos Santos, but with the knockdown, yeah. It takes a lot for me to give a round to a guy who was knocked down but did not get that back.
No, once he got knocked down, all he did was recover and just tie up Lee so he wouldn't get hit again. And I would suspect, given where we are, the judges are full on 10-9 for Lee. Yeah, it's a good.
What you have to watch for is the 10-8. Because it's utterly undeserved, but might show up.
Well, they might. Who knows? They might be using boxing standards here, where a knockdown,
they should not be. They are expressly under the newer set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
There's that. They said the rule set that they're using. I know the scoring criteria for the new rule set. I know if it's I know if it's even debatable or not.
Yes, but some people have a hard time remembering the things. And they go with their biases.
Or whoever paid them the most. Now that was a really nice straight right from Jing Liang. He's not here to be a stepping stone for a guy who should be ranked higher than 14th in the UFC.
There's a good body kick there from Dos Santos.
He's landed several of those. That's going to be a problem for Jing Liang if this fight keeps going, because he's been hurt to the body before.
Lee looks to really want to. He's seen Dos Santos wilt under the weight of punches. I think he's looking to get himself a victory by knockout here. He seems very much focused on that and the way that he's standing and attacking. Like he's trying to bait him into dropping his hands and getting a full-on hit to the face. He seems he liked that knockdown in the first round. He wants another one.
Yeah, and Dos Santos has not really figured out a better avenue of attack yet. I mean, again, his kicking game is working when he's at distance, but he needs plans B and C. Yeah. There's a decent counter right there.
Yes, Lily.
Can I ask you a question?
What's your... Not from over there. I can barely hear you. I have earphones on. What's your question?
My question is, are there any more movie podcast actors?
Not right after this. I have wrestling to watch all day. But we'll get another one on the books, okay? My junior program director over here.
Always wants to be in on the action.
Yep. Dos Santos now kind of stalking Lee. You gonna go back and clean your room now? No, leave Mommy alone. She's sleeping. Not all of us got up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Those who do are either contractually obligated to or are those deeply disturbed people we refer to as mornings.
Dos Santos stalks forward.
He's getting his kicking combinations going now, too. He's getting his swagger kind of going.
I like the uppercut that he threw, landed on Lee. Lee walked through it, though.
Well, Lee also has a pretty good chin.
Lee is just sort of sticking the jab in Dos Santos' face. I mean, he was like not close to hitting Dos Santos, but he just kept throwing that jab out there.
Yeah, he does a lot of that, and it's going to get him caught. If Dos Santos is able to time that jab with a right, he'll be able. I think the real problem Dos Santos is having is measuring his distance with his punches. He knows the kicking distance, but he's not got a great feel for the punching space yet.
Lee landed a punch to the body, and now Dos Santos is coming after him, and he's circling away. I wish Lee would stand in the pocket a little bit more with this guy. I feel like he'd get a bit more success.
He'd be in a better position for success, but he's also, again, he's a bit wary of what's coming back at him because Dos Santos can crack too. Anytime they both get into where they want to start throwing in the pocket, one of them throws, the other one blocks, and then one of them disengages before it can really develop into a firefight.
But that's the thing. I feel like Lee would have more success if he would fight close. Don't. I'm not seeing a tremendous amount of success at distance. I feel like when he gets in there close, and he works his. He works his punches both to the head and to the body. He finds more success. Now, I understand the other guy can hit back pretty hard, but if he would mix it up, throw a combination, tie up, throw a combination, tie up, I think he'd have a stronger lead in the round.
Well, the danger with that also is not just the power coming back his way, but Dos Santos is a really good clinch player and grappler. So if he ties up, he doesn't want to wind up on his back with this guy.
Mm-hmm. And that's the end of round 2. How did you see that one?
I'm actually leaning towards Dos Santos there. I thought Jing Liang really had a lot, just did not have as much consistent offense this time around.
They are icing Lee's upper chest there, just around the neck and pectoral area.
That's pretty common. When you're just trying to get someone's heart rate down a little bit, you put it there, you put it on the back of the neck, just kind of cool the body down a little bit, get everything a little bit more refocused.
All right, here we go into round 3 of our co-main event, such as it is.
It's been a decent enough fight so far. Nothing necessarily to write home about, but this hasn't been bad.
I think I was more referencing the fact that neither one of these guys has a particular amount of star power for a quote-unquote co-main event. It might just be the second to last fight is what it is.
That's true.
All right, we have an exchange of kicks between the two fighters, though, again, instead of staying in the pocket or maybe planting, trying to put more power on his kick, Lee is continuing to circle away and back up.
Lee's not an especially powerful kicker when it comes to the round kicks. He's got a decent side kick. Dos Santos is the much harder kicker. I'd rather Lee, when he sees the kick coming, either try to smother it by just pressing forward and throwing punches, or really commit to getting out of the way and then looking to re-engage.
Well, another option would be maybe to counter the kick with a takedown attempt and maybe try some ground and pound.
That would be an option, and Jing Liang has some ferocious ground and pound when he can get it going. I think he just doesn't want to grapple at all with Dos Santos, which is a mistake to not even test the waters, because while Dos Santos is a good grappler, he's not a lights-out guy when it comes to his grappling, so you could at least maybe give it a try and see what happens.
Speaking of grappling, Dos Santos has tried for a single, and Ling said, nope, none of that now.
Yeah, that's not an area he really wants to engage in consistently here in this circumstance.
What is Lee's major discipline? Is he a kickboxer?
I couldn't tell you what his discipline is. He's primarily known for being a heavy puncher in MMA circles. Again, he's got a decent kicking game to kind of annoy you. He's got a good side kick. But a lot of it's more, again, get you into bad positions and then punch you really hard in the face.
So Dos Santos has been using these jumping switch kicks, not very effectively. He's not Lyoto Machida, but he's been using them to make distance, push Lee against the fence, open up some striking opportunities. He was pretty successful in the last go-round a few seconds ago. And then Lee got out, Lee took some damage and got out of dodge.
Yeah, I get the feeling Lee thinks he's ahead on the scorecards and just doesn't want to risk it.
Well, he probably is.
It's a fair assumption, I suppose.
Good left there from Dos Santos. Dos Santos might be winning this round.
So far he is. I mean, again, we're barely at the halfway point, but yeah, I've got him up on the round so far. And since I gave him the previous round, but again, if I'm him, I wouldn't rely on that.
And we have a takedown off a kick by Lee. Dos Santos escapes immediately. Now, see, I don't understand why, if Dos Santos is the better grappler and this guy's got heavy hands, why he doesn't take those opportunities to maybe work from underneath. Like, go ahead. Let Lee complete the takedown and make him sorry for it. Because now we're back on the...
Because he's not the best bottom player. And especially in MMA, you have to be really great off of your back if you're going to get anything going. Otherwise, you're just losing time.
Right, but that's also an opportunity then for him to escape and reverse positions, take a back, that sort of thing. In other words, I want to see him utilizing his ground game a little bit more if this guy's such a heavy puncher, rather than continue to get into half a firefight with him. Oh, I think Lee took some damage on that last exchange. He kind of just bumped into the fence, kind of drunkenly.
Yeah, I think he got his bell rung a little bit there. Again, Dos Santos has been landing on him. Jing Liang just has a pretty decent chin, especially if he can see the punches coming. And Dos Santos is not exactly a subtle man when it comes to his fighting.
All right. Dos Santos is trying to corner Lee. He's cut the cage off, trying to prevent him from doing too much circling.
Lee's definitely in defense.
Oh, shit. Lee nailed him because I even missed what it was while I was describing what was going on. And we're done. From the jaws of whatever this was, Lee finally laid in those strikes and knocked out Dos Santos. I'll have to watch the replay because I'm not entirely sure what happened there.
I'll tell you in just a second.
We have our first finish of the main card. Outstanding. And there he goes. He's on the run. Ling is in the crowd. Which they're not supposed to...
He got him with an uppercut.
Oh, that's what... Okay. I didn't think you were allowed to leave the cage like that.
You're not supposed to be.
We're in China, though.
Dos Santos is not happy with that stoppage. I'm not sure I agree with his. It didn't look great,
here's
but
the replay. Okay, so
again, it's a glancing uppercut, and then he just doesn't let him off the hook.
yeah.
Not the best stoppage in the world, but I can live with it.
So it looked like, I don't know how much damage he actually took from that. Because, again, it was glancing, and then he just seemed to lose his balance and back up, and then Lee was all over him. Okay, so yeah, he stumbles back off the uppercut. Lee jumps on him. Yep, a bunch of lefts to the face. A couple of right hands, and he falls over again. And the referee, I think, stopped it just because he was just knocked. He got his legs knocked out from under him via his head.
Yeah, again, this is not the best stoppage you'll ever see in the world, but I can understand why it happened. He does not, the way he falls initially, his arms kind of go limp by his side rather than are out to brace himself. By the time he gets there, he's braced, but by that point, the ref's already moving to stop the fight. So.
Right. Well, look, I'm not going to look. If you're the fighter, sure, you're not unconscious, so you want to keep going. You want to try to recover and win the fight. But if you're the referee and you're out to protect the health of the fighter, I'm actually okay with that stoppage. There's been worse. I mean, as much as I always like to use Shane Carwin versus Brock Lesnar as a great example of, boy, should that fight have been stopped earlier. I
think that fight was stopped at the appropriate time when Shane Carwin gave up.
Stop it. All right, we have our official decision here at 4 minutes and 50 seconds of the third round. Lee defeats Dos Santos with a TKO via punches.
Really hard to kind of undersell that win for Jing Liang. That's the number 14, I believe, guy in the world who was on a 7-fight winning streak. And he just was able to get him out of there pretty cleanly. That's a big win. That's a big win for that guy. So, credit to him. And shame on the UFC for rewarding your 14th guy with a 7-fight winning streak, going into enemy territory in China to fight an unranked opponent.
Well, somebody had to fight him.
That is absolutely not true. No one had to fight him.
Well, I mean, not at gunpoint or anything. All right, this is our main event, Andrade versus Zhang. That's how I'm pronouncing it, and I'm standing by it.
Fair enough.
Okay, let's break this down. Andrade versus Zhang. For Andrade to maintain her title and march towards Joanna Champion, what does she have to do to defeat this opponent?
What she does normally. A lot of forward pressure because Weili Zhang does a lot of kicking off of her back when she's pressed, and it's just not a good idea. Body shots because Jéssica Andrade digs to the body. Physical power. Weili Zhang is a very strong woman for the weight class. Jéssica Andrade was a very, very strong bantamweight. I think there's a massive strength disparity here. If she can get takedowns and get on top, Andrade has some pretty ferocious ground and pound. And I think that's probably her best line of attack for victory. A lot of forward pressure, cut off the cage, which is something she doesn't do all that well, actually. She's much more happy to just follow you around and let her pace wear you down rather than cut the cage and get you to the fence. So if she's worked on that, it's something she should be looking to exploit here. Get her to the fence, work shot combinations to the body and head, pressure in for takedowns, get her down, get on top. Make sure when you get takedowns, you get into an advantageous position, not just guard, get somewhere decent. And then work from there because Yanan's going to Zhang is going to try and keep distance, try and utilize kicking combinations into punches, try and keep things long, and try to replicate a little bit of what Joanna did in terms of just, matador to the bull. But she's not nearly as disciplined as Joanna when it comes to being fleet of foot. She doesn't have much of a jab. That's not really what she does with that. She does a lot of side kicks to the body. She does some good punching, but again, just a disciplined jab constantly in the face of a charging opponent is not what she has shown thus far. So again, if you're Andrade, you just kind of do what you've been doing to reach the level you're at, because there's not a lot of documented evidence that Weili Zhang is in a position to handle that.
So let's talk about, while we have some time here and they're still showing highlights from these two fighters, just kind of give me 50 words or less on the preliminary card. What did you see? What did you like? What was the Drex?
Okay. For the record, I'll run down the results briefly. Anthony Hernandez defeated Junyoung Park via Anaconda choke submission in the second round. Not a bad little scrap here, but, you put a Mexican in there with a South Korean, you're going to get a scrap. There's just chemistry there for some reason. Again, good little scrap, and I like an Anaconda finish. Sumudaraji defeated Andre Sukumtat via unanimous decision. If you're really into some of the minutia of what Mudaraji was doing, then, the way he was moving and angling, he looked pretty good, and Sukumtat seemed to mentally check out after the first round when he broke his hand. Da-Un Jung defeated Hadis Ibrahimov via power guillotine choke 2 minutes into the third round. This fight was the worst, but it's it's crappy light heavyweight, so you would have loved it.
Terrific.
Demir Ismagulov and Thiago Moises, good fight. Ismagulov is a genuine up-and-comer in the lightweight division. Pay attention to that guy. Adalong Hele defeated Dana Batgarel via unanimous decision, 29-27 across the board. 29-27 is BS score. I have no issue with him winning, but giving him a 10-8 no. Pretty good fight. And Carol Hossa defeated Laura Principio via split decision. This was not very good. It wasn't boring, but it was not very good. That's my story as far as that goes, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, we're waiting for the fighters to enter the cage. I'll go through what you've missed here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, or maybe you haven't missed it, just haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. We kicked off the week with DC First Superman and Lobo. We did a TV party tonight for Krypton Season 2.
Held awake. Get it? Because the show was canceled.
Terrific. We also
It's dead.
He's fat. We had Jeremy. We had Jeremy Lambert. Will you shut up? We had Jeremy Lambert from 401mania.com on the Metal Hammer of Doom, a special edition of the Metal Hammer of Doom, where we reviewed Taylor Swift's Lover.
Hang on, wait. What's the thing that the antithesis of the Metal Hammer of Doom that you do on occasion?
We did it once. It was
the country washboard of
jubilation.
You should have called it that.
I was thinking about it, but I was like, you know what? My as we were reminded last night, Jeremy has only so much tolerance for gimmickry, and I really wanted to take this seriously because I want him to come back, and he's not the first or the last person to dip his toe into the Radulich and Broadcasting Network pool only to get his foot burned. So I was like, you know what? This is something that he takes seriously. I'm taking it seriously too. So there was no nonsense to be had.
Apart from two grown men in their 30s, well, one in his 30s, one in his 40s, expressing their appreciation for Taylor Swift.
Look, if you are a professional reviewer, you have to review everything and treat it seriously, and I was able to do that. I think I should be commended, not insulted.
How about both?
Fair enough.
I can do both.
You can do both. All right, so yes, we reviewed the new Taylor Swift album, Darling, I Fancy You. That's all I'm going to say about that. Jesse and I got back on the right track with some trance metal. We reviewed Rage of Light and Ploder. Robert Winfree was holding it down on Damn You Hollywood on a special Thursday show. Him and Alexis Hannah reviewed Ready or Not. Alexis Hannah and
wherein I pitched a dark comedic take on the end of Avengers: Infinity War.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that. Alexis Hannah was pulling double duty, as she and I also reviewed the made-for-TV movie, now currently on Blu-ray, also shown at San Diego Comic-Con, not Five Nights at Freddy, but rather the Banana Splits movie.
Totally started as Five Nights at Freddy's.
It did not. May have been loosely inspired.
No. You don't get to put loosely around that.
And then myself, Robert Winfree, and Jason Teasley last night reviewed Zombie Tidal Wave. All of those are in the archives. All of those are available for public consumption. But if you like all of that, and you're interested in hearing our thoughts on D23 and She-Hulk, and hearing my kids blather in the background of some movie commentaries, go ahead and check us out on Patreon, as we said before. A dollar gets you the best content on the internet. That's what I tell people.
I mean, it's not true, but you can tell them that.
Shut up.
$1 gets you our content on the internet, and we stand by it being good as far as what we can do. I would not call it the best on the internet.
That's fair. I've heard some of the stuff on the internet. People actually, edit, pre-record, put, work into their podcast. I turn on a microphone and start yelling at people.
Hey, look, I like to think that the fact that we do not go for a tremendous amount of polish, you get a lot of us kind of, what we think, is part of the charm.
Yes, absolutely.
The best part of any source material podcast is the outtake reel at the end.
I've been saying that for months. When I started being a regular part of the show and he had to start making gag reels for all of my nonsense, I was like, I just go right to that now. I'll go back and listen to the whole show at some point, but I always go straight to the gag reel. That's the best stuff. Next week, I'll get my plugs in now so that when this is over, we can just go. We've got Onslaught Volume 1, Hannibal Season 3. We'll have a review of New Japan Pro Wrestling Royal Quest, AEW All Out, and NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff, all of which are happening today after this event. We'll have a review for you on Tuesday. If you're not watching Wu-Tang, An American Dynasty, and I highly suggest you do, you should also check out an extra source material. We're doing X-Men Legacy Volume 2, Invasive Exotics, which features the character Legion. And we're talking about that book because we're wrapping up our Legion coverage. This was Legion Season 3. We'll be doing a TV party for it on September 5th. We have nothing
Boy,
on...
Onslaught's a terrible character.
We have nothing on Friday, September 6th. I'm finally taking a day off from podcasting. But we're back in the grind again on Saturday at 2 o'clock for the main card of Khabib versus Poirier. Myself and Robert Winfree, as he proceeds to share his time with me and 401 Mania, which we, of course, appreciate. Darling, I fancy you.
Yeah, don't ever say that to me again.
I've said it to everybody I can find that will listen lately. I love that line. That was the best part of the Taylor Swift album for me.
I could say something unkind, but I'm not going to.
We certainly appreciate that. All right, I believe we are finally, Chris Bailey, finally ready to get underway.
Yep, we're just about to wrap up the fighter intros for the main event. I am shocked that Jéssica Andrade is not a bigger favorite.
She looks positively ready to murder this woman.
Yeah, she always looks like that.
Well, you don't get to be champion for being all smiley and goofy.
I could cite a couple of examples to the contrary, but as a general rule, you are correct. Yeah, look, Jéssica Andrade is a bit of a tank. She wants to, crush everything that is you into nothingness.
Bit of a height disadvantage for the champion going into this. We'll
she's
see how that plays
she's
out.
5'1.5". I think she's the shortest fighter in the UFC.
Wow, that's quite a distinction. And
It's her and Michelle Watterson, and she's much thicker than Watterson.
I would have thought Tisha Torres was the shortest fighter. She's a little bit of nothing.
Could be. I'd have to check. There's a few that are 5, but yeah, Andrade is 5'1.5". Mm-hmm. No, Torres is taller than her actually, because they fought, and I remember that being a little bit surprised by that.
All right. So they're going head to head here. We're finally getting a big time action fight here as they are just swinging for the fences. Andrade is very heavy on the hands. Zhang is fighting back furiously. She currently has her tied up, and she's giving her a barrage of knees to the face. We are going to see a first-round finish here, and we have a new champion. Holy cow.
That is insane. That's absolutely insane. I was not prepared for that to go that way.
Standing here, mouth agape.
That is desperately shocking.
Andrade clearly expected this woman to wilt if she put pressure on her, and she suffered for it.
Yeah, again, the lack of takedown attempts is a pretty big deal as far as this goes.
Well, just the idea of, we talk about fighters staying in the pocket. She did not relent. She did not circle. She just came right at this woman. This woman came right at her back, and she took a loss for it within seconds. All right, bring on Joanna Champion,
who I tend to think will do what she normally does to everyone in the division not named Rose Namajunas.
Wow, what do you think, Robert?
I'm a little bit shocked by that. Again, you could see Andrade just gets a little bit too aggressive. She gets clipped with a straight counterpunch. She staggers, and she never really gets her wits back about her. She falls into that tie clinch. Zhang just unloads on her and never gives her a shot.
Yeah,
at getting back into things.
She caught a bunch of elbows and knees in that clinch. And, Zhang just never let go of that clinch. And then when she finally does, Andrade is just so out of it, she can't defend herself. And Zhang finished her off. It was a big time right there.
Yeah, again, she got too aggressive and fell right into that counterpunch. That is the first Chinese or, moreover, Asian champion in UFC history.
They talked about that in the promo for this, about her wanting to take the belt home to China and all of that. I'm sure Dana White is pleased as punch and will parade this woman around Asia as often as possible.
Until she loses the belt, which I have to imagine is coming rather quickly.
Well, Joanna Champion has to get through Michelle Wallace.
That's... God, I don't want to jinx anything, but unless Joanna is shot beyond what is reasonable to expect her to be at this point, that's a mismatch.
No, I understand that. When I mean get through, I mean she actually have to fight first, which is taking place in October. So you figure this woman sits out until Joanna is ready to fight again. You're not seeing that fight until early 2020, I would imagine. Maybe a card sometime in January at best, January, February. Yeah, I don't know if you. I mean, she didn't take a tremendous amount of damage here, so maybe. Let's see. Let's go look at the UFC list of events here, where they're still building cards. Because if you want to get her a quick fight again, you've got. I mean, you can't put her on the Maya Askren card because they're headlining that one. They need something for Russia.
Yeah, they need a lot of things for Russia for that card.
They don't have they don't have a headliner for this one. They've got according to this, what's been booked here is Klidson Abreu versus Shamil Gamzatov. Ed Herman, all right, versus Antigolov. Sure.
It's so amusing to listen to you stumble over these names.
This was a mistake, and I'm sorry I've made it. They've got this other Nurmagomedov fella at welterweight versus David Zawada. So they don't have anything here, and I don't know who else they've got at strawweight that they could throw against this woman for a headline.
There's not a whole lot, actually. Again, you have the next two contenders in Joanna and Michelle Watterson to have it out.
The other option here is they've booked an event in Busan, South Korea, on December 21st, which needs a card. It needs the whole thing.
Look, there's plenty of time before that event.
So if I'm the UFC, I'm probably having her headline and put a title on the line in South Korea.
All right, I need to listen now. So pausing is.
All right, we finally have our official decision here. Your winner and new women's strawweight champion, Weili Zhang, with a TKO, knees and punches at 42 seconds of the first round. We were discussing what's next for our new champion, and I like her in the, I believe it's December 21st bout in Busan, South Korea. That's UFC on ESPN Plus 23. I think that's a dandy time for a title fight, and I know exactly who I want her to fight. I think she should. Now, UFC has her ranked at number 2 after her decision win over Nina Ansaroff. Ranking MMA, which is the site I'm on currently, has her at number 3. The way it breaks down is, she's just defeated Jéssica Andrade, Zhang did. Rose is taking time off. Joanna's already in a fight. So your number 3 ranked opponent is the 8-0, 5-0 in the UFC, Tatiana Suarez. I think we send Tatiana Suarez to fight this woman in South Korea for the title. What do you think?
Much as I do kind of like the idea of Tatiana Suarez in the title picture, she's rehabbing a neck injury.
Oh, is she?
She's had some gnarly neck issues for a long time. That's what actually halted her quest to wrestle in the Olympics, was some nagging neck issues that she's still trying to really deal with.
How long is she out for?
I do not know. If she is available, I think that could make a lot of sense. If Joanna comes out of fighting Michelle Watterson very clean and quick,
maybe you make that fight then.
You could do that as a quick turnaround. But no, Suarez is, given her wrestling pedigree and just how dominant she is an inevitable title contender.
The only other person right now, everyone's pretty busy. Nina Ansaroff is coming off a loss, so she's out. Claudia Gadelia, excuse me, Gadelia.
No, Gadelia is not a relevant fight.
Well, no, I'm. If you'll let me finish, is busy. She's got a fight with Cynthia Calvillo on December 7th. Carla Esparza has Alexa Grasso on September 21st. And Michelle Watterson we've already talked about. So the only other person that's viable at this point who has a winning record is Marina Rodriguez out of Brazil. With a 12-0 record, she's 2-0-1 in the UFC. If they want to feed this woman to the new champion,
that would be I would riot. That would be the gimmickiest gimme of all gimmies.
Well, defend that position, seeing as everybody else is busy, and this woman and we should probably get this woman another fight before the end of the year. I mean, if you come into work at the UFC on Monday and think this woman needs a fight, we want to put her in South Korea. Who do you got? Why not Maria Rodriguez?
Because she has never fought on anything approximating the main card of a UFC event.
Okay.
Because she's
the 12-0 record doesn't do anything for you?
No.
Okay.
Look at the people she's beaten in the UFC. Even I get that the win over she's coming off the Torres win.
But she also beat Jessica Aguilar.
That means nothing in this year. By the time she's coming off back-to-back wins over Jessica Aguilar and Tisha Torres, who 7 years ago were maybe 2 of the 3 best strawweights in the world. But Aguilar's 1-4 in her last 5, I think. Maybe worse than that. And Tisha Torres is on a 4-fight losing streak. You're not going to sell me on their legacies. You have to sell me on what's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't dislike Rodriguez. She's a good fighter. But that's very much kind of if that's what you do, you're passing over a bunch of other higher-ranked fighters. And I get that the schedule is a thing. I really do. But there's a degree to which the meritocracy has to be preserved.
Well, then, unfortunately, you don't have a lot of options here. Let's go over this one more time. unless they want to do a rematch with Andrade, which I do not think she deserves, or unless Rose Namajunas decides to come back for it, which, not really sold on that either.
No, Rose would actually, I think, do a number on her.
I'm just not excited about people coming off losses going back for title fights. Like, you got to get another fight in there first. So
that's a theory, I suppose. Not one the UFC subscribes to.
Okay, that's fair too. So maybe we'll keep Thug Rose we'll put her in the maybe column here, along with Joanna Champion if when she gets by Waterson and doesn't take too much damage. So
in fairness to Michelle Waterson, if she pulls that upset, it's got to be her.
Oh, sure, but come on.
Again, I'm not picking her, but crazier things have happened. Look at what we just saw.
You've got a fair point. So how far back do you go before you go, that's it, I don't care how good their winning streak is or what they've done recently. Nobody after the certain number gets picked. Because here's where I say that. Marina Rodriguez, according to Ranking MMA, is ranked number 9. And then it's just a shit show after this.
That would be... I don't think anyone after 10, at a bare minimum.
Okay. Because you have this 14th ranked fighter, Yan Jinan, who's 11-1 and 4-0 in the UFC. He's actually had more fights in the UFC than Zhang did going into this fight.
True. And Yan Xiaonan is a good fighter, but Zhang's a better one.
And she's got decisions over Angela Hill, Suri Kondo, and Vivian Pereira. I mean, unless you want to feed Felice Herring to her just for shits and giggles.
No, Felice Herring is not a thing.
She's a pretty face. She looks nice on a poster.
I disagree.
You would. All right, so then who do you like? Your matchmaking, what do you do here, since you don't like any of my ideas?
I think you have to wait another 2 months to see how a few things play out. I mean, it sucks, but that's kind of how this has to go sometimes. You have to see how some of the top fighters shake out when they actually get in there and fight.
Well, here's what by the end of September, we'll have the winner of the Carla Esparza Alexa Grasso fight, though neither one of them probably deserve a title shot, no matter how much that shakes out.
No, not at all.
And that just leaves, by the end of October, Joanna Champion and Michelle Waterson. So
I think that's what you're going to wind up doing is the winner of that fight, unless Tatiana Suarez is ready to go sooner than I necessarily anticipate. Or the UFC wants to go with a more fan-friendly matchup because Suarez is just going to double-leg you into oblivion and then smash you from top position.
Where is Valentina Shevchenko?
Flyweight.
Because I
10 pounds heavier.
Well, no, I'm just looking that Joanna Champion fought her and lost.
Yeah, she moved up to flyweight to try to win that vacant belt and had nothing really to offer Shevchenko.
Okay.
Because Valentina Shevchenko is a very, very dangerous... There's two things. I'm going to piss off some people here. Two things are simultaneously true about Valentina Shevchenko. One, absurdly talented woman. Two, her fights have a history of not being terribly engaging to the audience. Because, oh god, that Liz Carmouche fight was just the worst.
Now she's the current flyweight champion?
With 2 title defenses. One, a brutal head kick knockout over some bitch from Ohio.
Yes.
Jéssica.
I remember discussing the some bitch fight.
Yeah, again, body kicked in the first, taken down, mounted, abused, head kicked into unconsciousness in the second.
Do you think Valentina Shevchenko can make
No.
Can make strawweight?
No.
No? Just
No.
No.
Not at all feasible for her.
Anybody in the top 10 at strawweight you think should go up? Oh, sorry. Anyone at flyweight you rather think she should go down for a fight with this woman?
Let me bring up the rankings here.
I mean, I'm not seeing a tremendous amount of good
there's
prospects here.
There's not a tremendous amount at the moment. There's a lot of stuff that's still in fluctuation. Let's see. Okay, Jéssica I just got flatlined, can't make strawweight. Chukagian can't make strawweight, and good God, is just not at all engaging to watch. Liz Carmouche got smoked, can't make strawweight. Maya can't make strawweight. Maya can't reliably make flyweight. Calderwood really hates making strawweight. Lee can't make strawweight. Araujo probably can't. Modafferi? Probably not.
She's also 2-4 in the UFC, so no.
At what point has that mattered?
Well, if you're going to say that, then I look. I'm all for pretty faces on posters. How about Paige Van Zandt?
Considering she's currently in a contract dispute with the UFC.
How about Marina Moroz?
You don't even know who that is.
No, I've seen her fight before.
Are you really?
I swear I have.
No, I mean, in all seriousness, I think Van Zandt has a fight scheduled already.
Not according to this.
And she just very publicly stated the other day that she makes more money posting photos on Instagram than she does fighting.
Terrific. Well, maybe that solves the problem. Like, here, we'll pay you a decent amount of money to go fight this.
The UFC will not stipulate to that at this point.
And send her a fun fight in South Korea.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
All right. Well, then we'll see what happens here. We'll see how this shakes out. I suspect you're right. I suspect they're just going to wait to see how Joanna Champion versus Waterson goes, and we'll call it a day. So this has been our coverage of Andrade versus Zhang on ESPN+. We hope you've enjoyed it. Robert's going to tell you about the 401 Ground and Pound radio show, and we're going to get out of here.
All right, Sunday on the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, we'll have a review of this. Jeff Harris should be back. He was at D23 last week, but he should be back for this one. And we'll have a preview of UFC 242, which is, again, a really good card. That Mark and I will also do live commentary for the main event, so that'll be a thing. Tune in for that, plus all our thoughts on the latest news of the week, fights that got made, BJ Penn should be committed. Did you see what happened?
I know he got into a bar fight. I don't know why, though.
He got knocked out.
Awesome.
By like a Pancrase-style palm heel strike, even.
BJ Penn just quit leaving the house.
Look, the man needs help. I mean, joking aside. BJ Penn is not in a healthy place. And it's deeply troubling to watch. He should not be allowed to continue fighting. I said that after his last 3 fights.
Well, has the UFC finally relented and not booked him for any more fights?
No! He's currently booked to fight Nick Lentz!
Oh, for fuck's sake. Why?
I don't know!
Good grace. I guess he's gonna. I guess. You know what's funny? Chuck Liddell, right? They pull Chuck Liddell and they say no more fighting for you. We need to protect you from yourself. So
Dana White publicly said, "I don't want that kind of money." Bullshit.
Well, apparently he doesn't want it for his friends. He doesn't give 2 shits and a fuck about BJ Penn. Apparently, he's like, you get all the fights. You fight till you die. Does BJ Penn owe somebody money? I remember Sam Mercati saying he doesn't need to do this. He comes from a rich family.
He comes from a relatively well-off family, yes.
Did he put it all up his nose?
No. I genuinely think BJ Penn does not know who he is if he's not fighting.
That's unfortunate.
I'm sure. I do not disagree with that. I think it's a sad reality for the majority of professional athletes. Once they no longer have that, they have to find out who they are as a person again. Because what has consumed a significant chunk of their life is no longer there.
Oh, that's sad.
His ex-wife has also alleged years of alcoholism and drug abuse, and mental and emotional and physical abuse from him to her. He apparently threatened some guy with a machete. Not that, look, BJ Penn is a sad, sad case study that is going to end up badly. That's going to have a very bad ending if we don't do something about it.
Well, again, this is why I said, though, wait, why would you continue to, in all seriousness, why would you continue to book fights for this guy if he's in such bad mental shape?
I don't know. I don't think he should be sanctioned by a governing body.
Well, that came out wrong. What I was actually trying to say is, if you're the UFC, never mind governing sanctioning bodies, you don't want the bad press. Why would you put this maniac in a fight where anybody who's a journalist worth their salt is going to bring all of this up?
Well, for the record, you did just throw a pretty big caveat onto MMA journalism as it pertains to the UFC.
Well, that's kind of my point. Is that if you're a journalist in the world in the world of sports and you're covering MMA, you can't ignore that.
Watch them.
God, I'm tapping out. I'm done. I can't take it anymore.
In all seriousness, there's not been a single mention by any of the journalists that work for ESPN that cover the UFC about the class action lawsuit they're currently dealing with. Not a peep.
Okay.
Let's not pretend that adversarial journalism is a thing right now as it pertains to the UFC at a high level. It's just not.
Okay. Hey, I have a credit for Royal Quest. Awesome. All right. I think we're done here with plugs. So tune in for all of that. We thank you for joining us on our commentary. If you have any ideas as to who the new champion should fight, you can go ahead and check out Robert's Twitter at Winfree MMA. Is that it?
Yes.
Yep. Tweet him all your ideas. Right now, I'm gonna go on Twitter right now and petition Alexa Bliss should fight Zhang for the title.
You know what? No, do it. Just so her face gets mangled. And I don't have to deal with people pretending that she's interesting.
I don't think anyone says she's interesting. They say she's a hot piece of ass.
Okay, then remove that from the equation. I don't care.
So yes, please tweet the UFC, tweet the WWE that Alexa Bliss should fight Weili Zhang in South Korea. And for that bit of nonsense, thank you for checking out our coverage. Be well, be safe, and behave.